Why did an army of undefeated killers suddenly freeze in terror because of a piece of cloth? They lied about the Great Heathen Army's defeat. It wasn't better tactics. It wasn't home field advantage. It was witchcraft. Or at least, that's what the Vikings believed. You see, we always picture Vikings as these fearless, logical warriors, right? But what if I told you their entire invasion of England hinged on a single, terrifying object? An object that, if lost, meant the gods had abandoned them to die. This is the mystery of the Raven Banner. The Hrafnsmerki. It's the one artifact from the Viking Age that blurs the line between history and straight-up magic. And when you look at the timeline, the moment this specific flag was captured, the Great Heathen Army fell apart. Coincidence? I don't think so. You have to understand, this wasn't just a flag. It wasn't like a modern national flag where you salute it and move on. To the sons of Ragnar Lothbrok, this banner was a living thing. The legend says it was woven by the daughters of Ragnar himself, 3 sisters working in a trance, weaving this banner in a single afternoon. And they stitched a spell into the wool. The claim was simple, but terrifying. If the army was going to win, the raven on the banner would physically flutter its wings. It would look alive, flying towards the enemy. But if the raven drooped, if it hung motionless, it meant Odin had turned his back. It meant death. Imagine the psychological weight of that. You're a Viking warrior standing on a shield wall in a foreign land. You look up. If that bird isn't moving, you know you're already dead. Now, fast forward to 878 AD. The Great Heathen Army has been smashing England for over a decade. They are unstoppable. King Alfred is hiding in a swamp. The Vikings, led by the terrifying Ubba Ragnarsson, probably the scariest of all the brothers, have cornered the last English resistance at a place called Cynuit. This should have been a slaughter. Ubba had over 1,000 men. The Saxons were trapped on a hill, starving with no water. It was checkmate. Ubba just had to wait for them to die of thirst. But this is where the mystery gets deep, because on the morning of the battle, something weird happened. The Saxons didn't surrender. They didn't wait to die. At dawn, they charged down the hill. They attacked the Vikings. This is suicide, right? You don't give up the high ground against Vikings. Unless the Vikings were already broken before the first axe swung. Here is the part that usually gets skipped. Why were the Vikings caught off guard? Some sources suggest that morning the air was still, dead calm. And when Ubba looked at his precious banner, the raven was drooping. Can you imagine the panic? These guys are superstitious to the bone. They wake up, they grab their axes, they look at the magical flag that has guaranteed their victory for 10 years, and it's telling them, not today. The Saxons crashed into them with desperation. It wasn't a battle, it was a brawl. And in the chaos, Ubba Ragnarsson, the son of legend, was killed. But that's not the worst part for the Vikings. The worst part is what the Saxons took. They captured the Raven Banner. This is the turning point of the entire Viking Age in England, and nobody talks about it enough. The magic weapon was gone. Think about the ripple effect. When news spread that the Raven was captured and that it hadn't flown, it broke the army's brain. It proved their gods were powerless in this new land, or worse, that their gods had betrayed them. A few months later, at the Battle of Edington, the Great Heathen Army was finally defeated by King Alfred. But I'm convinced the war was actually lost right there at Cynuit. You can't fight when you think the universe wants you to lose. So, was the banner actually magic? Probably not. It was likely just heavy wool that needed a stiff breeze to fly. But does it matter if the magic was real, if the fear was real? The Saxons realized something crucial. You don't have to kill every Viking to win. You just have to kill their belief that they are invincible. I want to know what you think. If you were a Viking warrior and saw that banner droop, would you have kept fighting, or would you have run? Let me know in the comments.